One of the most important parts of our ceremony is our tradition to have one graduate selected by faculty, staff, and students to speak on behalf of all graduating students. Please join me in welcoming this year's undergraduate student speaker, Obaid Barakzai.
Assalamu alaikum, hola, ciao, shalom, hello. Good morning, Board of Trustees, President Dobkin, college leadership, faculty, staff, distinguished guests, family, friends, and of course, the graduating class of 2022. I first would like to encourage you to take a moment to think about how far you have come, to recognize your hard work, acknowledge the struggles that you went through during a global pandemic, and most importantly, to celebrate you. Like many of you, I remember my first day at Westminster. I was sitting down in one of those maroon-looking chairs in front of Converse. I was lost, quite flabbergasted, thanks TikTok for the term, and so ready to take a nap literally anywhere on the grass. So the big hot tea person that I am, I decided to walk to this building called Bass's to get myself a beautiful cup of tea. And guess what? They put ice in it. And I was like, thanks. So I left Bass's just a little bit more confused and thought maybe iced tea isn't that bad. Just don't tell my mom that. But let's be honest, my presence on this stage is very unlikely. I was born and raised in one of the most oppressed and disadvantaged places on earth, Afghanistan. As a kid, my toys were small bullet cartridges, and my dreams of survival were nestled in uncertainty. I grew up in a small, crowded, 3-bedroom apartment in Kabul with no television because we couldn't afford one. In our living room, we had these 2-mid-sized glass windows. Through the one on the right, I would watch my neighbor's kids watching Tom and Jerry at night, making me laugh hysterically, like, ha ha ha. Through the one on the left, I would watch explosions happening and say prayers for the victims. I always lived in the dual reality of hope and despair, between a window full of laughter, joy, peace, and the harsh realities of life. The reality that I may not be alive the next day if I simply walk to a grocery store to pick up naan for my family. And that's life. Having been born in war and having grown up in war, it took me a while to realize that war was not the real danger. The true threat was staying behind that window in my own bubble while holding on to the belief that I was born in war and therefore I was a product of war. The belief that a backward, desert-dwelling Muslim, immigrant, and a low-income first-generation student of color cannot get an education, let alone be seen in these spaces and thrive. And clearly, that's not true, thanks to Westminster. Now, some of us came to Westminster from thousands of miles away like myself, some from out of state, and some who just wanted to change cities or even neighborhoods because we knew that no matter our majors, career choices, or the size of our bubbles, Westminster had a place for all of us. Westminster enabled us to not only look at hope and despair through our windows, but to pop our bubbles by going out there and taking actions that challenge and transform systems for the better. And as a result, we're standing here today on the precipice of the future as compassionate, global-minded peacemakers ready to change the world. With a liberal and interdisciplinary education, Westminster challenged us to be intellectually fearless. With its strong focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, Westminster taught us that our courage to speak up and do something positive has to be bigger than our fear of being silent, of getting hurt. With its small classroom settings where professors knew our names, which contributed to a tight-knit community, Westminster allowed us to develop skills and foster connections that would last a lifetime. Westminster taught us to call people into conversations instead of calling people out so that we can collectively challenge racism, discrimination, and falsely alienating and dehumanizing systematic narratives. In one way or another, we all remember those moments where we would find ourselves still engaging in conversations even after our class sessions ended. This is because Westminster created a safe and inclusive space where learning isn't limited to just classrooms or workspaces, and that no matter our journey, we will utilize what we learned at Westminster to fight injustice everywhere, knowing that we can always rely on Westminster community for support. As we have found, Westminster is the only place where our individual stories have been made possible, where the dream of an illiterate and deaf mother to see her son graduate through a war-torn TV screen has been made possible, where the dream of 6 indigenous Barakzai generations to see a Barakzai graduate for the first time, where the dream of a Muslim to only find himself learning among students of all religious backgrounds and walks of life, and the dream of a low-income first-generation student of color who can courageously and unapologetically say that I was born in war, but I'm not a product of war. You may or you may not know what you're gonna do after graduation, and that's okay. But one thing I need you to know is that you're running off the energy of hope to keep on popping those bubbles and windows and letting the world see what a griffin is capable of doing. I would like to end my speech by thanking my family in Afghanistan who are watching us live while holding on to hope for a better future, to my friends and families and the Legacy Program for making all this possible. Thank you. Thank you so much. And lastly, as you walk out of this ceremony today and continue working on your dreams, I want you to think of this quote from my mom. If you have a full cup of tea in front of you, it's not about finishing it as soon as you can. It's about enjoying taking that one sip at a time. And this applies to iced tea as well. Thank you so much. Data Manana, congratulations once again.
Thank you. I feel like we all need to raise our hot cup and take a virtual sip. Thank you. Obaid has been a stellar student who exemplifies the possibilities of a Westminster education.